From Vermont Public and the NPR Network, this is Brave Little State. I'm Josh Crane, and I'm currently walking to the flagpole that is outside of Vermont Public's White River Junction office. It's empty, and to be honest, before a few days ago, I hadn't even really noticed there was a flagpole here. But I've started to think a lot about flags over the last few weeks. Until then, I sort of thought flag design was the purview of vexillologists and popular podcasters like Roman Mars who give TED Talks about flags. But apparently a lot of you think about flags too, especially the Vermont state flag, the one that eagle-eyed fans of the show might know inspired the Brave Little State logo. Now, my wonderful colleague and self-described flag nerd, Michaela Lafrac, looked into all of your flag questions, and she's here today with some answers.
Picture, if you will, the American flag. There it is, waving in the wind. There's the red and the white stripes and the blue square with the white stars. Now picture the flag of Vermont. It's a bit tougher to conjure, right? If you don't know what it looks like, do not feel bad because you have a lot of company. Recently, I went to a park in Burlington and I asked some Vermonters what the state flag looks like, and here's what they said.
There's probably some kind of bear. I don't know, maybe some kind of bird. Oh, is it fiddleheads? No.
Maybe a maple leaf.
Maybe a person on the flag.
Is it Ethan Allen, that guy? No.
Ethan Allen.
I don't know.
I have zero guesses. I have no idea what is on the flag.
I think there's a bee.
A bee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a bear. I don't know. What's on there? Okay, I think there's a flower on there.
I hate to. You're 0 for 3 so far.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what am I picturing?
I don't know. It sounds lovely, whatever you're describing. How long have you lived here?
1986.
These guesses are all completely wrong, but it's not surprising that these Vermonters are confused. For one, the Green Mountain State's flag is blue. And in the middle is the coat of arms, which is based on the state seal. It has a bunch of teeny tiny little pictures inside.
There's the stag's head on top. There's the pine tree in the center.
This is Brian Sewell, our question asker. He knows the Vermont flag pretty well because he works for the state government, so he sees it a lot, like flying outside the State House in Montpelier.
And then there's a cow and some sheaves of wheat and the mountains. And so it's a whole collection of Vermonty things.
And I'm genuinely asking, I'm not pretending to not know. Is there a slogan on it? Freedom and unity?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Is that on? By the way, Brian and I are actually friends. I've been to his house in Burlington a number of times, and the guy really likes flags. He does this thing where he flies 2 flags on his flagpole instead of just one. Recently, when I was there, he was flying the flag for the University of Vermont, his alma mater, and a red flag with a pine tree on it, the unofficial flag of New England.
Full disclosure, I did grow up in Lexington, Massachusetts. I think growing up in Lexington, it's hard not to catch a little bit of history fever, and so I wanted to have those out.
Note that Brian is not flying the Vermont flag. He's not its biggest fan.
I feel like Vermont deserves something that stands out a little bit more.
Brian is one of many people over the years who submitted a question to BLS about the Vermont state flag. One person wants to know why Vermont has such a, quote, terrible flag. Another asked why Vermonters aren't brave enough, again, their words, to get a new state flag, one that's more unique. And, oh, by the way, what is up with the Green Mountain Boys flag? Could it replace the one we have now? A couple of you have written to us about that. I love all these questions because I, too, have a pet interest in flag design. I think it's because my birthday is on the 4th of July, so every birthday cake I had as a kid was decorated like an American flag. Anyway, here is Brian's question.
Other states are undergoing redesigns of their state flags. How much do Vermonters know about our flag, and is it time to update ours too?
We'll be right back.
Support for Brave Little State comes from Sunset Lake CBD, a farmer-owned company crafting CBD gummies, tinctures, topicals, and more with Vermont sun-grown hemp. Products for people and pets are available for home delivery. SunsetLakeCBD.com. And Wendell's Furniture, home of Wendell'sDeals.com, with quality furniture at surprisingly low prices, including a selection of sofas starting at $7.99, in stock and ready for summer. Inventory and pricing at Wendell'sDeals.com.
After talking to many locals over the past few months about the state flag, I think we can just go ahead and answer Brian's first question right now. How much do Vermonters know about our flag? On average, not a whole heck of a lot. I mean, my job is to report on this state, and here's what my own daughter thinks is on the flag.
It has a giraffe on it and one tiny deer and some ants and one
Ants?
and some mice and a tree and the ocean and someone swimming.
Yikes. Brian's second question, though, is a bit tougher to nail down. Is it time to update our flag? A couple other states have updated their flags in the past few years. Mississippi removed a Confederate symbol from its flag in 2020 and replaced it with a magnolia flower. In 2024, Utah took off the state seal and put in a beehive. Minnesota adopted a new flag too, a simple white star on a two-tone blue background. Brian has watched all these other states change their flags, and he's wondering if it's Vermont's turn. Before I make that call, I want to learn more about this flag of ours. So I head to the Vermont Historical Society in Barre. Their press guy, Andrew Liptak, meets me at the door, flag in hand.
This is the current Vermont flag. In 2023, it turned 100 years old, so we did a little bit of research into the flag at the time. The cows always look a little bit different depending on which ones you buy.
Yeah, it does not look like a cow up close.
Yeah, not really. It's like a weird capybara.
Yeah. Andrew tells me the blue flag with the coat of arms that we have today is Vermont's third official state flag. The first one was pretty basic. Picture an American flag, but with 17 stars instead of today's 50. And across the top of the flag, it read in big, bold letters,
Vermont. That was the first Vermont flag.
Very literal.
Yeah. And
The second flag debuted in 1837. At this point, the Historical Society's director, Steve Perkins, joins Andrew and me. Steve carefully brings out a silk version of this second flag.
And you can see the silk is all shattered, but it's painted.
Painted on silk, wow.
Painted,
This one still looks like an American flag, but in the blue corner, there's just one big star. Inside the star is a picture based on the state seal. Vermont founding father Ira Allen designed said seal during the Revolutionary War. That second flag stuck around for a while. Then, in 1923, the legislature voted to change it again. Flag number 3 is all blue with the Vermont coat of arms right in the middle. This is the version we know today. I ask Andrew why the change happened, and he says no one really knows.
when I was looking through newspaper reports, there was not really any discussion in columns or letters to the editor or what have you. So it basically they said, we're going to adopt it. They went and adopted it and then been around ever since.
So here we are with a kind of nice, kind of boring state flag. About half of the 50 states have flags just like Vermont's. They're known as seal on a bedsheet flags, or SOBs. That's the term used by flag experts like Dave Martucci.
Well, I'm a vexillologist, as we like to call ourselves, one who studies flags and banners.
Dave lives in Mid-Coast, Maine. He's an expert on New England flags, and he's the former president of the North American Vexillological Association. And yes, I did practice saying that word a lot.
My primary interest in the subject is Why do people feel compelled to fly flags? That's the bottom line question in my mind all the time.
Dave, do you have a favorite state flag?
No, I like them all.
Dave really just wants people to fly flags and think about their history. That's why he got involved in a recent effort to ditch Maine's SOB. It isn't popular with flag fans like Dave. They suggested reverting to a version of the previous state flag. Picture a beige flag with a green pine tree in the center and one blue star in the upper left. It flew for just a handful of years in the early 1900s. Still, it's simple, symbolic, and really popular.
You look around in Maine and you'll see the flag with the pine tree and star much more often than you'll see the state flag.
So Dave joined this grassroots movement to restore this 1901 flag. He was pretty excited.
I thought the whole campaign was going very well up until the last few weeks.
That's when a counter-narrative started to gain traction. Dave says some people saw the redesign as a quote-unquote woke effort to erase Maine's history.
And that certainly wasn't the case. We're trying to restore our history, but we did not get a lot of good, favorable publicity during the last couple of weeks of the campaign on that issue.
The state held a referendum on Election Day 2024. Voters rejected the new flag 56 to 44%.
Do you think he'll try again?
As I like to say, this is not the end of the road, it's a bend in the road. And so the answer to that is most likely. What that's going to look like and how and when, I don't know yet, but it's not something that's probably going to happen right away.
As for Vermont, if we want to change our flag, Dave has some suggestions for how to go about it. That's after the break.
Support for Brave Little State comes from the 20th Annual Kelly Brush Ride, raising funds to empower people with spinal cord injuries to lead active lives. Riders traverse the Champlain Valley with routes between 10 and 100 miles, then celebrate with live music, beer, barbecue, and prizes. September 6th in Middlebury. Register at ride.kbf.org.
Dave Martucci's attempts to change the state flag in Maine point to just how hard it can be to pull off that kind of campaign. If your flag isn't blatantly offensive, it's going to be hard to get the general public and state legislators on board with changing it. But it is doable. So, for any Vermonters who want to take a crack at changing our SOB, Dave has some suggestions. For one, start with a blank slate.
I mean, that was successful in Utah and Minnesota. Those designs had no bearing on prior history.
The North American Vexillological Association actually has a list of 5 key elements to good flag design. 1. Keep it simple so a child can draw it from memory. 2. Use, quote, meaningful symbolism. 3. Don't use more than 3 colors. 4. No letters or seals. And 5. Be distinctive. Don't duplicate other flags. Vermont's current state flag? 1 for 5. We've got meaningful symbols, at least. During my reporting, some Vermonters asked if we might ever adopt an arguably more popular flag, the flag of the Green Mountain Boys. Now, if you're not familiar with it, this flag is green with a blue square in the top left corner with 13 white stars in it. The flag dates all the way back to the Battle of Bennington in 1777, and it's now used by the Vermont National Guard. It follows all 5 flag design rules. But historians and vexillologists warn against it. This blue, white, and green flag is a red herring. I'll let Steve Perkins from the Vermont Historical Society explain.
But it was flown by General Stark as the flag of the New Hampshire forces.
Yep, the flag used by the Vermont National Guard is from New Hampshire.
At some point, as historical stories started to evolve and meld. It was co-opted and called the Green Mountain Boys flag, and then history books and imagery started to show it as the flag being carried by the Green Mountain Boys, who also participated in the Battle of Bennington, but they absolutely did not have this flag. This was a New Hampshire flag, but it is now so tied into the state of Vermont that it's almost impossible to extricate this imagery from the state of Vermont.
That is shocking to me. Still is, man. Still is. This is exactly why Dave Martucci says you should always start with a blank slate. Just imagine if Vermont unknowingly adopted a New Hampshire flag. The shame! Dave also tells me that if you want to change the Vermont flag, the state legislature will need to vote on it. And with everything else going on in the world, it'd take some really good lobbying to convince lawmakers this project is worth their time. In 2010, a Vermonter in Bradford named Greg Stone started a campaign to update the flag. But other than a few news articles and conversations with his state reps, his effort didn't go anywhere. In the 15 years since, there have been changes to the flags of a couple Vermont cities, like Burlington and Montpelier. Yes, city flags are also a thing. There haven't been any other significant attempts to change the Vermont state flag. But if one crops up in the future, well, I bet our question asker, Brian Sewell, will have something to do with it. I stopped by his house again recently. This time, he was only flying one flag, but it was a combination Pride flag and New England flag. He told me his wife thought flying two flags was a little much, so he went out and bought this, a 2-for-1.
I think I had put it up, and like a day later I was mowing the lawn and a neighbor came by and was like, "That's a great flag, that's so cool, thanks." And I was just like, yes, this is why we do it.
I shouldn't have been surprised to learn that Brian has an idea for a new Vermont state flag. His vision goes like this. On the left side of the flag is a blue vertical bar. It takes up about a third of the flag. The rest is green. And between the two blocks of color stands a gold pine tree, the tree from the state seal.
So blue for the lake, green for the Green Mountains, and then a gold pine tree to kind of bring it all together. From what I've seen, that would be pretty unique and set us apart.
Ultimately, Brian wants a flag that feels more like Vermont.
We punch above our weight. There are so many things that make Vermont amazing. To have a flag that's kind of meh, it just didn't feel like it was living up to what Vermont's all about. And so I thought, yeah, it'd be really cool if like there was an option, or if there were things in the works to design a new state flag. And I think it's worth a shot.
Brian graciously drew us a version of his flag. You can find that design in the online version of this story at bravelittlestate.org. While you're there, if you're feeling brave, we would love for you to design your own. We made a template that's up on our website. You can print it out and fill in the blanks with your own flag ideas. We'll post our favorites. Again, that's bravelittlestate.org. Happy flagging!
Thanks for listening to the show, and thanks to Brian Sewell of Burlington for the great question. If you have your own questions about Vermont and its people, we'd love to hear them. Head to our website, bravelittlestate.org. That's where you can submit questions of your own, vote on other listeners' questions, and see our ever-expanding episode archive. This episode was reported by Michaela Lafrac. Editing and production from the BLS team, that's Sabine Pooks, Burgess Brown, and me, Josh Crane. Our intern is Lucia McCallum. Angela Evansy is our executive producer. Theme music by Ty Gibbons. Other music by Blue Dot Sessions. Special thanks to Amanda Gustin, Ted Kaye, and Katie Grant. Brave Little State is a production of Vermont Public and a proud member of the NPR Network. Thanks for listening.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.